When someone drops to one knee and pulls out a small velvet box, we all know exactly what's inside. A diamond ring represents eternal love, a highly recognized expression of commitment that feels like an ancient human instinct. Today, nearly 90% of American brides receive a diamond engagement ring, pouring money into a global jewelry market worth over $80 billion a year. Step back into the early 20th century, and this custom vanishes. Before the Great Depression, diamond engagement rings were an optional extravagance reserved strictly for aristocrats and the ultra-wealthy. The leap from elite luxury to a mandatory global milestone was engineered by a single entity, the De Beers Diamond Cartel. The modern engagement ring is the byproduct of a century-long corporate campaign. De Beers manufactured artificial scarcity, codified new rules for personal spending, and built an empire on the back of severe human exploitation. Diamonds are not exceptionally rare. For decades, De Beers simply controlled the global supply, gripping over 90% of the world's production at their absolute peak. They enforced this dominance using a secret $5 billion stockpile locked inside a London vault. If independent producers tried to sell on their own, De Beers would flood the market with identical stones, instantly crashing prices and bankrupting competitors. The roots of this market control track back to the late 19th century and a man named Cecil Rhodes. To secure the land for his mines, Rhodes used his political power to pass racist legislation, systematically forcing Black Africans off their ancestral properties and into his workforce. These workers were funneled into closed labor compounds. Men were separated from their families for months or even years, fed rotting food, and physically locked inside to ensure not a single rough stone was smuggled out. The cartel required a constant stream of cheap, powerless labor to maintain its profit margins. By the mid-20th century, De Beers and his parent company had become the financial engine of the oppressive South African apartheid state. The immense price tag on a diamond in a jewelry store had nothing to do with geologic rarity. The cost was carefully engineered through market manipulation, reliant on the systemic subjugation of Black South Africans. By the late 1930s, the Great Depression was devastating diamond sales. De Beers hired the American ad agency N.W. Ayer with a specific brief. They weren't there to sell a product, but to make the diamond feel like a requirement for romance. In 1947, a copywriter named Francis Giretti coined 4 words: "A diamond is forever." The slightly unusual phrasing made it stick in the mind, mapping the physical durability of a mineral onto the emotional concept of unbreakable love. Rather than listing carats and prices, De Beers placed diamonds into the background of idealized romantic moments. They fed these scenarios into movies, celebrity culture, and editorial spreads, letting consumers project their own desires onto the implied product. Armed with a working formula, they exported it. Take Japan in the 1960s, a society that had absolutely zero historical tradition of using diamonds for engagements. After a decade of targeted advertising that tied Western romance to Japanese ideals of commitment, diamond adoption among brides skyrocketed from 5% to over 75%. De Beers proved that an ancient human custom could be drafted in a boardroom and deployed globally. Even as the ritual took root, the company still faced a basic problem: how to get an average worker to hand over months of wages for a stone that serves no practical purpose. They solved this using a cognitive bias known as anchoring. If you drop an arbitrary number into a person's mind during an uncertain situation, that number becomes their mental starting point, pulling their perception of value toward it. De Beers applied this by inventing a rule entirely out of thin air: a man must spend 1 month's salary on an engagement ring. As inflation grew, they simply nudged the anchor up to 2, and in some countries, 3 months' salary. Buyers were emotionally vulnerable and had no idea what a rock should cost. By establishing a fake financial standard, the cartel created a psychological price floor that convinced millions of people to overspend by default. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the physical grip of the cartel finally began to fracture. The collapse of apartheid in South Africa, a flood of rogue diamonds leaking out of Russia, and new independent mines refusing to play along broke the tight seal on the global supply. Facing a crisis, De Beers had to dismantle its weapon. Between 2000 and 2004, they quietly liquidated their hidden $5 billion stockpile, slowly releasing the stones into the market to avoid a catastrophic price crash. Today, De Beers controls roughly 35% of the market. They are a powerful player, but they operate alongside other giants. Yet, the diamond market didn't collapse when the monopoly ended. Prices stayed high, and couples around the world still willingly offer up chunks of their salaries for engagement rings. A diamond is forever is a chilling masterclass in power. The cartel lost their physical monopoly, but they successfully wrote their profit margins into our cultural DNA.